Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Tuesday, January 28th. And we're almost done with the whole month of January. Can you believe that? Freaking time is flying. It's like, a 10 month, 11 month of Christmas again. Has to freak you out, has to make you think about it. So yesterday was a little bit of a bloodbath. That new AI engine totally freaked out everything and massive, I would say, an overreaction. We'll see. So far, the bounce in the overnight has been okay. It's as expected. The question is just a follow through on the downside. But I think this is more of a reaction. There's no fundamental change in a main economic outlook, which is going to keep it driving this one way or the other. So I think we can see some more volatility as this shakes out and people digest it. But I think overall everything pretty much stays the same, except we can do a lot more with less. I don't think they're going to slow down any data centers development or anything. Any of those challenges are going to change. It's just people got that scare and panic sold, and well, I would be expecting this to start picking back up again. So you can see some of those stocks are already getting picked back up again. But question is, they're going to return right back to where they were, and maybe not. But I think yesterday's sell-off was kind of overdone. That was brutal. And most of it happened in the overnight. Light volume before the market opened. As the market opened, we pretty much held in that range, around about the 6,015, right about this edge, this market edge. We held about this edge for most of the day, and then closed a little bit on a strong side, and yes, overnight has been all the way up here to 6,070. So we did take out the 50s, and as we hold above the 50s, I think we have a shot at trading back up here towards that 6100s again. We will see. At this point, I'm watching the 45s, the 35s pretty carefully. That's going to be the one when I take off my long bias. So at this point, thinking that we may have a little bit of a retracement going, we have a shot at potentially trading back up. There's a slight bias to the upside to get started. If they can't hold that, we're right back down again, and we're taking out that long bias, going back range bound. If it starts trading below the 6,010s, I think I'm going to start thinking about another move to the downside, maybe another attempt to test the lows again. So that's the kind of the dynamic I'm looking for this morning. Now, the news before I keep going here, the Fed meeting began today. We have an announcement tomorrow. We get durable goods at 8:30 today. Case-Shiller housing data at 9. Consumer confidence at 10. So it's two housing reports at 9, but housing data, both of them. So 8:30 we get durable goods, housing data at 9, consumer confidence at 10. And that's about it in terms of news. 7-year auction at 1. All right, 7-year auction at 1. Also, we have earnings. Don't forget about that. We are in the middle of earnings season. Kind of forgot to talk about that since all this stuff was going on. Maybe a Lockheed came out. I mean, they're getting hammered this morning. So as stocks come out and report, you'll see reactions on them. But so far, I think GM came out this morning with a pretty good result as well. Lockheed had a crappy result, and so they're back and forth. But we are still earnings season. Yes, be mindful, and that's also part of the volatility being created. So for the ES, starting off with a slight bias to the upside to see if they can retrace this any further. Being very mindful that this could be just a little fake out on the upside. So if they can't hold the 45s and the 35s, these two support areas, that is this big edge right there. If they start trading below that again, we're taking off the long bias, going back range bound. If they start taking out that 6,010s, that was the support area from yesterday. That's where they made their stand from for the day session. If that gets taken out, I'm thinking that we may see a rotation down here towards testing the lows again. So we'll see how this pans out. It's anyone's guess really what's going to drive this today. I think the overreaction is going to create a little bit of a bounce to the upside. We're seeing it right now. Question is if this is it, or if they're going to keep going a little bit to the upside. All right, so that's how we get started on the ES on the way up. Not going to be very aggressive on the short side. at least to get started. It's going to see if they can take this higher. I think the better short is going to come up here against the 6100 if they get up there. That's just to show you that. I went this way too fast. So up against 61 and this big edge here, that's going to be your next area of resistance. So if this starts trading up, I think that's area for a short opportunity would be the better one. But either of these areas of resistance could potentially hold. So potential shorts at 6070s, 80s, 90s, and the 6100s for rotations back down. I would prefer the 6100s, but we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. So if this starts retracing to the upside, as I said, I'm not going to be super aggressive. I'm going to hold out for that 6100 for a bigger short. Still looking for short setups, so there could be scalps here in between as they approach resistance. But we just have to see how strong this market is. If this is a fake out, we may see a nice little retracement today. And if it's not, if it's just early strength, we may see them take out support here and trade right back down again. So it's hard to make hard to make. Don't have to make that call right now, but I'm going to start off with a slight bias to the upside, looking to buy weakness to see if they can take this higher. If not, if that 30 comes out, 30, 35 comes out, and taking out that bias, going back range bound, and if they can start trading above 70, staying on the long side, and just be mindful you don't buy into the 80s or 90s right into resistance. That would be a crappy. Well, that's always a crappy trade. Getting long as they take out an area of resistance, that's kind of the way to go. And just be mindful if you do that you don't get faked out on the upside. So in other words, they always keep running stops on the upside, running stops outside the edges. That's just normal stuff. So yeah, if you hop on a breakout, that's always the risk you're taking. So giving it a little bit of room, looking for a little bit of volume gives you a little bit more certainty that the breakout may have a shot at succeeding. Anyway, so that's the ES, how we get started. Let's see, NASDAQ and the bonds. So the bond market backing off a bit, so flight to safety, coming back off just a little bit. Let's see if I can find my chart for that guy. There it is. So my capital flow for the bonds, pretty much in the range. They backed off this upper edge. It did not extend to the upside, so flight to safety, a little bit of panic there. Start retracing. They head back. I believe they're heading back to this area of attraction, the 25 down to the 112, 113 to 113.25. This area, high volume area, and I would probably stay. Just be a little bit, well, I'm not going to start with a long bias, but I'm looking to buy weakness to see if they can take this higher. So I'm pretty much at that level. The 26 is here where I'm starting to think about taking off any potential bias to the upside. We can hold for the 13, 16 to 18 support area. If they take that out, we're definitely back down here in this lower range. But they backed off pretty good from the upper area. So I'm thinking we are starting with a slight bias to the upside on the bonds. They're reverse retesting this area right now. So you see this from the prior sessions. So the 113.26s used to be resistance that now support. So if they take that out, they're probably taking off the long bias. So the last one to buy against would be that the 16 to 18, but they already backed off pretty good from the highs here on the bonds if they get that far down. So it could be very well that this yesterday's panics gets reversed and the bargain hunters start picking out these stocks at the discount. And I mean, you could pick up Nvidia below 120 yesterday, maybe even, well, maybe not right now, but yesterday they were down to 116, 117. I was super tempted, super tempted. But I already have a position on, so I'm just gonna leave it at that for now. NASDAQ, they're also in a spot where they absolutely fell out of bed yesterday, and yeah, because Nvidia and Microsoft and some of those stocks are like a huge piece of that index. So that's why I get these big reactions on the NASDAQ at this point. you have a tech scare like that, shaking up the few of those big tech companies, yeah, freaking Nasdaq just tanks. So that is pretty crazy. So at this point, they are still at this lower edge, the 21 200s, and I haven't really retraced a whole lot. So we'll see if they can make something out of that one. But at this point, the Nasdaq is in a spot where if they take out this volume edge at the 170, see that volume edge right there. If that comes out, I think we can retrace quite a bit lower. And that would just be a function of the index being so overweight those big tech companies. It could also be if they start trading above this area, the 21,500s, and that's your little volume node, volume attractor. If they trade above it, I would go back on the long side of this one and start thinking about maybe a retracement right back up again. So Nasdaq is almost in a spot where we are looking for a retest of these support areas, but given the overreaction yesterday, and they retraced pretty good, I'm going to start off assuming that this lower edge may hold. So looking to buy weakness just to get started. A little bit of caution on that one because we are down at this lower edge, and Nasdaq is the one which is super sensitive to this news. So, and looking to buy against that edge at the 290s, the 250s, and the 200s for rotations back up again. If they take out the 200s, I'm back range bound below the this 21 130s, the lower edge of yesterday's day session. We are right back on the low short side of this and looking for a retracement all the way down here. So that Nasdaq could go either way. But given the I think the overreaction from yesterday, I think we have a shot at potentially retracing a bit to the upside today. So I'm watching that 21,500. That's going to be the one which shifts myself into the long side in a bit bigger way. But it's right up here. So they had to take out that 470 and the 520, these two areas of resistance. If that happens, yep, then we are heading higher again. So looking to buy early weakness for rotations back up. Short opportunities against the 412, the 410s, the 480s, and the 520s for rotations back down. And these three could potentially be short opportunities if they can't take out the 500s. They may stay in this lower range and potentially make an attempt to take this lower. So we'll see. Always interesting when you have a big down day and a bounce, and then they are kind of just holding. Sometimes if it's economic news, chances are you're gonna see continuation to the downside. If it's this news, this tech news, and it's getting digested and people are realizing that it may be an overreaction, well, you may see a complete retracement. It could go either which way. We'll see how the market feels about the whole thing. And then finally, oil and gold. Gold, just holding in that 2750 range. Starting off range bound on gold. At this point, looking to buy weakness, 2740s, the 37s, the 34s. What is it? 38s. Yeah. So this is 42, 38, 34 for rotations back up. And looking to get short against resistance, 50, 53, 60, maybe even up to the 65, 66s here for rotations back down again. So about 3 levels up, about 3 levels down. Let's see what side where they're going to go with gold, but not looking at gold being very directional right now. They've been all over the place. So staying range bound on gold at this point around the 2750. So looking for short setups against the 53s, against the 60s and the 66s. They're going to get long against support 42s, 38s, and the 34s for rotations back up again. So range bound gold, oil, still structurally to the short side. It's just had to be mindful about the back and forth on oil, but they're looking to sell strength. So at this point against the 74s, the 7450s, up to the 7520s for rotations back down. And buying against the 7320s and the 7250s with a bit of caution. Let's see, those two. So this is a low volume area on oil. and it's so far it held the first time to it. So that's your low volume area, and as we remember our rules, right? Low volume area stalls activity, and that's exactly what happened here. So stalled activity, and we are in the right now bouncing back up. So I'm looking for a retest of that low, maybe lower, as these policies now start shaping up. Because I had a week of new administration, and I think the oil is getting the message: drill, baby, drill, and the price is going to start coming down. So looking at getting short against strength at this point against 74, 74.50, 75s for rotations back down. And then buying against that 73.20 and the 72.50s with a bit of caution. That retest, if it retests 72.50, could be a nice retest failure trade. I don't necessarily think it's going to reverse anything in a big way, but it could be a nice long setup there for a little bit bounce to the upside. But that could be a trade which sets up today. So we'll see. But the oil is going to be structurally to the downside. It's no reason that's going to be, the pressure is going to be net to the downside all the time. All right, so that's oil and gold. To get started, back to the ES. And we are at this point pretty much where we left it. Let's see if we get a further continuation of this little recovery, how big of a overreaction this was yesterday, or if the market is going to have another little bit of a fit here in today's session. I think we'll find out shortly. Alrighty, guys, we'll wrap it there. So we know what to do. And let's try slight bias to the upside on the ES and NASDAQ to get started. Let's see if they can keep retracing in the overnight into the day session. But let's be mindful. They had to clear a couple of hurdles before we really start leading back in on the long side of this. All right, good trading, guys. I'll see you back at 11:30 for the next update.